Good. Good evening. Welcome to the City of Sugar Land City Council meeting for November 21st. A little bit about our agenda in a couple of minutes or a few seconds. Councilmember McCutcheon will come down and lead us in the invocation. And then tonight we have the Austin Parkway National Elementary Honor Society, those guys right there, here to lead us in the pledge. And then we have a special recognition from our fire department. I'll call down our police chief, fire and EMS chief to come lead us. Carol, you ready?
I invite you to stand and join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, we are reminded at this time of year to slow down and give thanks for all of our many blessings. Tonight, we want to give thanks to you for your love and grace. We give thanks for our families and loved ones. Thank you for our homes, our city staff, in particular our first responders, our sweet city, our veterans and active duty military, and our great state and country. Father, cause our hearts to swell with gratitude this week as we celebrate Thanksgiving. Renew our spirits and fill us with your peace and joy. May we, as city leaders, approach our work tonight and at every meeting with humility, compassion, and gratitude. May you be honored and pleased by the way we serve and conduct ourselves. We make this request with truly grateful hearts. In your name we pray. Amen. So again, tonight we are very excited to have the Austin Parkway National Elementary Honor Society here, and we have 3 members who are in the 5th grade. And through the Austin Parkway National Elementary Honor Society, students provide meaningful service to the school and community and develop essential leadership skills. And we are so excited to have you all here tonight. So I'd like to welcome Adeline Say, Kristen Tran, and Sarah Gore. So ladies, come on down here and please lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance to the American flag and to the Texas flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
Thank you, ladies, so much.
And now to lead us in our recognition, our fire and EMS chief, Doug Boker, will come down, and then we'll ask the entire team to come down as well for this special recognition of our Jonathan Vance.
Thanks, sir. All right, good evening. We're here to celebrate with Chief Vance for his completion of the Texas Fire Chiefs Association Chief Fire Executive Program. This is an intensive 2-year program that requires of him written papers, research projects, presentations, budgets, a whole litany of assignments. It's a competitive process to get into. Not everybody that applies gets accepted. Not everybody that goes to year 1 gets invited back to year 2, and not everybody that starts year 2 completes as a graduate. He did all of the above successfully and joins a very small number in our ranks to be a certified fire executive. The 2-year program included human resource law, legal aspects of fire and EMS delivery, risk management, project management, budget. All of this kind of comes together in his final 2-year project, a research project that he presents to Texas Fire Service peers from across the state, and they give him a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And with that, he represented the city quite well and graduated at the top of his class, and I want to congratulate him on that.
Congratulations. Thank you. Oh, we're gonna get. This is a true testament of our staff here at the Sugar Land. We go one step above and beyond the others. And Chief Vance, this is a testament to you, your family, everyone else that gave sacrifice, the 2 years that you went through. Congratulations on behalf of the entire city of Sugar Land and all 111,000 citizens. Thank you. Thank you. Council, come on down. Oh, you gentlemen, come on back. Come on down. All right, we'll go to item number 2, public comment. Anyone who wants to speak on an agenda item is welcome to do so now. Is there anyone that would like to speak on an item? Did anyone sign up? Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 3, consent agenda. Everything on the consent agenda will be taken in one motion unless a council member wants to pull an item. Do I have a motion? Motion approved. I have a motion by McCutcheon. Second. And a second by Watley. Please vote. Do y'all see it? No. Okay. I see mine. Let's do a hand vote. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you, council members. Item number 4, contracts and agreements. Item 4A, consideration and action on the authorization of a construction contract with Ballast Point Construction Incorporated in the amount of $4,921,135 for the Covington West and Imperial Woods Drainage Project, CIP CDR 2201, and authorization of a budget amendment in the amount of $704,558 from the 2019 GeoBond drainage funds for the base bid shortage of drainage improvements, and an authorization of a budget amendment in the amount of $674,394 from the CIP 2023 fund balance for streets improvement. And with us, we have Timothy John, our Senior Engineer Manager, presenting. Tim.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and council members. This evening, we are seeking your approval for a construction contract for the Covington West project. Background, we've completed a drainage study for the Covington West Imperial Woods post-Hurricane Harvey. The study did identify that there were areas that had exceeded the city's master drainage plan performance criteria. So, and these areas have experienced excessive street ponding during Harvey and other times. Covington West and Imperial Woods project was included in the 2019 voter-approved GeoBond project. And if this project goes forward, it will reduce flooding risks and street ponding depths during major rain events. We also applied for and received a $4.1 million zero-interest 30-year loan for construction, and that saves approximately $1.8 million savings over the life of the loan. This map depicts a general location of the area that we're talking about. This is in Covington West, and Imperial Woods is the general location that where the project was studied. And a more detailed map here kind of shows, and I'll go into detail as to what all these lines mean. The base bid of the project essentially is for drainage improvements, and that's the green line, what's called the base bid. And that includes box culverts and pavement improvements along Arcadia, Greenwood, Greenway, Mason, Oakwood, and down to the ditch where it discharges. The add alternates were put in because they are areas that the Public Works have identified that need paving improvements, but were not necessarily related to drainage improvements. So we added them as add alternates. And so they are included in this project to see if we could afford and utilize the contractor's ability, since he's on site, if he could have one mobilization and not, we could also avoid going into this neighborhood twice. We could do it all with one project. So the project scope includes, these are the major items: 8-foot by 3-foot reinforced concrete box culverts. And then we have several 8-foot by 4 reinforced box culverts. We will be replacing storm sewer, manlet in-holes, junction boxes, small water lines, sanitary sewer, laterals, and things that are tied to the system. Also for the areas where there's drainage improvements, we will be replacing the pavement with reinforced concrete. And then the 3 add alternates are pavements improvements that are outside the drainage area, and that's the areas that I mentioned in the map earlier. For the bid phase, the invitation for bid was advertised in August. We opened bids in September, and we received 3 bids as shown here. The original parent low bidder was Environmental Allies. However, researching their work history and their workload and the work that they had described in their submittal, we did not believe that they met the minimum criteria that we need for this size of a project. And so we're actually recommending this evening to go with the second low bid contractor, Ballast Point Construction. And shown here at the bottom is their drainage and improvements of little over $4.2 million, and their add alternates for the pavement improvements of $642,280. And I'd also like to introduce staff from Ballast. We have Letty Hernandez and Joseph Yusuf here with us tonight. They are based out of Katy, and they have been in construction business for this type of work since 2020. So the project funding is as follows, with the full all alternates and the base bid, a little over $4.9 million. We like to keep a 5% contingency in the project of $246,000. We have a construction admin contract that'll be forthcoming at the next meeting for $60,000, and a construction materials testing contract of $120,000 for a total project needs of $5.347 million. The available funds in CIP CDR 2201 is the drainage project, and that's a little over $3.98 million. So to complete the project for the costs that came in, plus the addendum, add alternates 1, 2, 3, we're recommending budget amendments from the 2019 GO bond drainage funds of $704,558 to cover the drainage costs, and from the FY23 CIP fund balance for the 3 add alternates for the pavement to shore up the needed funds for this project. For public engagement, we've had in the past several HOA meetings at their annual meetings to talk about the design layout. We do have a public engagement meeting coming up to talk about the project at the sometime at the end of December to discuss construction. We've also been coordinating with Fort Bend ISD and giving them information, and as we move forward, we'll keep them informed as well. As far as the schedule goes, assuming it's approved this evening, we're probably most likely going to have a notice to proceed in January, because once this contract is approved, we have to send it back to the Texas Water Development Board for their approval, since we're using Texas Water Development Board funds. And they will actually issue the notice to proceed, and we'll keep them in the loop for the whole duration of the project. So we request this evening 3 items: the execution of a construction contract with Ballast Point Construction for the Covington West Imperial Woods Drainage Project, CIP CDR 2201, in the amount of $4,921,135. And a budget amendment of $704,558 from the 2019 GO bond drainage funds, and a budget amendment of $674,394 from FY23 CIP fund balance. And with that, I can answer any staff questions.
Thanks, Tim. William?
I want our community to have clear vision on this. So rarely do I see we have a bidding process to where the actual lowest bidder is not the one you're recommending. And I heard a little bit of what you said, but I want our community that may be watching right now to understand why we are choosing a company that is $237,000 more than the low bid, please.
Well, if we look at the difference in the total cost, if you add the alternates, the difference in the price is actually closer to, and I'll go back to the slide. The difference between the Environmental Allies and Ballast Point, the difference there is about $60,000. And the reason we're going for Ballast is because Environmental Allies, looking at their work history, what they've done, we did not feel they had the confidence to do this size of a project for this type of work. It's fairly tight, it's fairly complicated, it impacts a lot of homes, and we didn't feel that they had the project size and scope of experience for this work.
Okay, fair enough. That was all I wanted.
Any other questions? Carol?
And how long did you say that Ballast have been doing this type of work? Did you say 2020?
They started in 2020.
Okay. And I love zero interest rate loans. That's good.
Suzanne?
Thank you. Tim, Jesse, where's Jesse? Is she here?
She's off today.
She probably deserves it. I just want to really thank both of you because I know we've been working on this a long time. I think it's important to note also that this is coming in ahead of time. Is that correct? Ahead of time that we actually proposed it to happen.
It's about on schedule.
Okay.
That's pretty
And
close.
secondly, I want to commend staff to find outside sourcing for this because that was not part of the project, and that's huge, saving over $1 million. So thank you for that. I've talked to Covington Woods, I guess last week, a few of the residents there, and they are very excited. So with all that, thank you very much. I'd like to make a motion to approve.
I have a motion by Watley. Do I have a second? Second by Lane. It's all about. Is it going to work? Works for me. And it's only working for me. We'll do a hand vote. And the motion carries 6-0. Thanks, council members.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Item number 5, ordinance and resolutions. Item number 5A, first consideration of and action of City of Sugar Land ordinance number 2322, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sugar Land, Texas, amending the Code of Ordinances by revising Chapter 3, Article 8, smoking in public places, to limit smoking in certain establishments within the city. We have Nicole Solis, and Nicole, you're going to be up here quite a bit tonight, our
Yes, I am.
Assistant Director of Environmental and Neighborhood Services, to present. Nicole, it's all yours.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Council. Again, tonight I am here to present some smoking ordinance amendments. So we will start off by going over the feedback that we received during the previous workshop, go over those proposed amendments, and then discuss next steps. So just as a reminder, on October 24th, we did have a workshop where staff presented information to council about the regulations contained within the development code as well as the code of ordinances pertaining to tobacco-related businesses. And brief overview, the development code does allow for tobacco-related businesses in B2 zoning districts, and cigar bars, hookah lounges, those vape shops are all classified under the same land use category within the development code. Now, the difference between the development code and the code of ordinances is that the code of ordinances does actually differentiate between tobacco bars and retail tobacco stores, which is important to note moving forward. Smoking is allowed in both of those establishments, and the ordinances does outline distances in which an individual is allowed to smoke in those non-exempt businesses. Okay, so during that workshop, there was a lot of discussion regarding various aspects of tobacco-related businesses, the user base, the location, the advertising methods, and then also how all of those aspects of it impacted the local community. And out of that discussion, staff did receive feedback to take a look at how we could amend the regulations to prevent future tobacco-related businesses from opening in the city, and then also prevent smoking within those retail tobacco shops. So tonight we are presenting Ordinance 2322, which is the first part of a multi-phased process to implement those requested changes. What it will do immediately is prohibit smoking within those retail tobacco shops. Again, those are the vape shops. And then prohibit smoking in tobacco bars that begin operating on or after January 1st of 24. What it won't do is prevent new tobacco-related businesses from moving in, restrict those hours of operations, or restrict their current advertising activities. Again, this is just the first phase of a multi-step process to address the concerns that were expressed during the workshop. So tonight, what we're reviewing is Ordinance 2324. So it is staff's recommendation that council approve this ordinance on first reading, with second reading to occur on December 5th. Following the successful adoption of this ordinance, we would send out letters to all retail tobacco stores to educate them on these ordinance changes. We would retrain staff on how to address inquiries that come in from potential business operators, and then we would continue work on future development codes to address the other portion of the concerns that were expressed. And with that, I will be happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Stuart?
Mayor Pro Tem, I have a couple of questions, please.
Right ahead.
First of all, Nicole, that is the loveliest PowerPoint that we've ever had here in the 5 years that I've been on council.
I'm going to hold y'all hostage the week of Thanksgiving. I might as well make it interesting.
So Nicole, the businesses that are existing, that are grandfathered, will be able to continue their operation?
So in existing vape shops, those retail tobacco stores, they will not be able to, but existing tobacco bars will be, yes.
So what if an existing grandfathered tobacco bar wants to expand physically their space? Is there anything that touches on that?
I'm sorry, can I refer to maybe planning to help me with that a little bit? If we are working towards amending the development code, there are things there that would impact that moving forward, but the code of ordinances would not specifically address that.
Okay, can you repeat the question, please? I'm sorry.
Yes, one of the grandfathered businesses, a bar that allows smoking, for instance, would they be able to physically expand their space and still remain grandfathered, or is just the footprint that was grandfathered?
Right, so that's the way we treat non-conforming land uses, is that you can't expand and make it more non-conforming.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Carol?
About how many retail tobacco stores do we have?
We are still doing research on collecting all of that information. The last time I looked at the list, it was about 15-ish that we are looking at sending out notification to.
Suzanne?
Thank you. In the interim between now and the effectiveness of this ordinance, will vendors have the ability to open bars and be protected?
So again, the ordinance doesn't address the businesses coming into the city, only the operations once they're here. This is just the first part of a multi-step process to address the concerns. Preventing businesses from moving in is part of the development code amendments that would be presented at a future date.
Okay, follow up? Just to be more clear for me, if I want a cigar bar, that's probably a no, but if I want a vape shop, that's probably a yes, but I can't smoke in either one.
As you recall, the development code does not differentiate between the land use categories. So they're all classified the same. So if you're talking about preventing them from moving in, this ordinance will not accomplish that initially. That is part of a future discussion and presentation regarding development code amendments. This is solely the code of ordinances. So it talks about the smoking, the activity of smoking, not the presence of that business and them being able to move into a space.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Sure.
The development code, when will that start be presented to council?
My understanding is that we're working towards a spring presentation
Okay.
timeline.
So a follow-up would be, because the development code allows certain types of businesses, are we going to allow these type of businesses to come in and then have to undo something or possibly undo something if we allow a hookah shop to be opened in the next 60 days? And our goal is we're not going towards that. Am I?
Any hookah bar that opens January 1st or later can sell all they want. You just can't smoke inside it. It's going to be a take-home kind of issue.
That's what I wanted to hear. Thank you, Meredith.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I'll make the motion to approve it. Second. I have a motion by Kamali and a second by Lane. Let's all vote, and we're hand voting, and it passes 6-0. Thank you, council members. Item 5B, first consideration and action of the City of Sugar Land Ordinance Number 2324, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sugar Land, Texas, amending the Code of Ordinances by revising Chapter 3, Article 9, Solid Waste, Recyclable Materials, and Vegetation to bring the regulations pertaining to bulky waste in line with our current operations. And Nicole, all yours.
Hello. Okay. So this is just a general housekeeping item. Apologies. We'll go over the history of the contract, the service changes that resulted from it, and then ordinance amendments and next steps. So just as a reminder, we all know that in January of this year, we did implement the city's new solid waste contract with Republic Services, and there were some changes. Now, we anticipated, at least initially, some level of confusion on the part of our residents, and we tried to work through that education process, but we found that even after time passed, we did still have a consistent call volume and questions regarding the on-call bulky waste service. So we immediately went to work with Republic Services leadership to resolve those issues, find out how we could better address it. And in August, we did determine that what we really needed to do was go ahead and modify the service delivery method for that bulky waste service. So as of November 1st, bulky waste is no longer an on-call service. The collection did revert back to a routine once per month pickup. And again, just because we are creatures of habit, we wanted to make it as seamless and easy as possible, so we kept that original Monday schedule. And I think it's important to note that despite this change, there was no impact in the monthly rate, and the overall level of service to our residents remained the same. It has been successful. We've seen residents are utilizing it quite broadly. We are in week 3, and we've seen some pretty impressive tonnages that have been picked up. So thank you to Republic Services for working with us on this process. It's been a big change, but a successful change, I think. So again, just some housekeeping items to bring the ordinances in line with how we are currently operating. We needed to add in the reference to bulky waste back into the hours for collection that we require residents to put out waste. We needed to delete reference to how to schedule the on-call bulky waste. And because we deleted a portion of the verbiage, it meant everything after that needed to be renumbered. So we did that through this ordinance. So it is staff's recommendation that council approve ordinance number 2324 on first reading with second reading to occur on December 5th. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? I'll make the motion. I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Karmali, second by McCutcheon. We'll do a hand vote. Passes 6-0. I also want to thank Todd and Alex for your cooperation during this entire time. Republic's been great to work with, and you all pivoted because our citizens asked to be pivoted. We had a contract, but you all helped us out quite a bit. And thank you to staff for this as well.
Thank you.
There's a couple of scouts in the audience. I see you all. I'm going to ask you, before we go to our workshop, if you want to just stand, state your name, what troop you're with, and what badge you're working on, and then we'll move on to the others. We'll start. Go ahead. Welcome to Sugar Land. Thank you.
My name is Austin Castro. I'm also in Troop 1000, and I'm also.
Good. Are there any others? Thank you all for being here. We're almost done. You picked a good meeting to come to. It's nice and short and sweet. So. All right, item number 6, workshop. 6A, review and discussion on the 2021 building code adoption. And presenting, we have Joshua Doyle, our chief building official. Nicole's back. And then we have James Soriano, our assistant fire chief as well. And Lisa.
Yes.
Oh, your name wasn't on my list.
It is not. So as our tradition is, we always introduce staff before their first presentation to City Council. So it's my pleasure to introduce Joshua Doyle. He is our chief building official. He's been with the city just over 9.5 years. He recently stepped into the role officially as chief building official earlier this year. So he's excited to be here and to give this presentation. So I wanted to welcome him.
Very good.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council. Real quick, if I may, my team never gets to experience this. If I could get them to stand for a quick second.
Absolutely.
I wanted to embarrass them. So they're the ones behind the scene. We always joke, keeping the city safe one building at a time.
Joshua, you want to introduce your team members, please?
Yes,
by name, please?
James Posey, he's my deputy building official. Robert Schulte, he's my residential plans examiner. We have Jonathan Louie, he's one of our newest building inspectors, as well as Stephen Lammers. He's one of our newest building inspectors. Behind them, we have Darian Jones and Ari Gunter. They're also two of our newest building inspectors. We recently went through a new hire. We lost about 60% of our entire team, so we've been tasked with having to rebuild this, which we've never had to rebuild this large of our group at once. So it is a task on its own. And then right behind them, last but not least, we have Andrew Popescu, one of our other senior building inspectors.
Very good.
Again,
welcome.
Thank you. Yeah. So tonight we're here to discuss code adoption. We're not here to ask for any action to be taken tonight, simply to have a workshop to discuss the processes that we've been going through over the last 6 to 8 months. We're a little behind on our code adoption. We're still currently on the 2015 International Code Council, also referred to as the ICC. This covers the installation of residential buildings, commercial buildings, electrical systems, plumbing systems, mechanical systems, pools, pretty much everything that we touch when we're building something, remodeling something. We're going to go over kind of the process of what we did internally to review, how we used our new system of technology to outwardly notify the public of what we were doing in order to get feedback in this process. We didn't want this to be a closed door process. We wanted to allow everyone to give us this feedback so we could take that and, use that to our advantage. We'll go through as well as maybe some really brief, nothing technical. There's hundreds of code changes that happen every 3 years when the code adopts. But still give you some examples of what this looked like. What does ICC do every 3 years, right? And then as well as some proposed local amendments that we are proposing to y'all. And then next steps. Our building codes serve as the foundation for ensuring structures within the city are safe, resilient, and sustainable. Our codes are designed to keep pace with advancements in construction techniques, materials, and engineering practices. Currently, we operate under the 2015 International Code Council of Codes. Our departments will highlight the significant changes between the 2015 and the 2021 codes and any proposed amendments. A project webpage was created for the public to submit questions, concerns, and comments that staff could review and respond to. Automated messaging was incorporated in correspondence with permit applicants since the beginning of the adoption process. Any individuals that applied for a permit, scheduled an inspection, or completed an inspection received information regarding the proposed code adoption and a link to the project webpage. To date, we have sent out over 6,000 code adoption notifications, with our number one response back to us being when. They wanted to know when would this be completed. They understand that cities have to go through this adoption, and the number one question is when. And for us, we're proposing that once we get this passed with an effective date of January 1st, 2024. Upon adoption, information will be pushed out using the same automated emails, HOA liaisons, and social media. Staff from various departments conducted reviews and significant changes to all proposed ICC and NEC codes, occurring concurrent with public education efforts focused on reviewing the differences between the 2015 and the 2021 codes, and also addressing any existing enforcement gaps. Our staff also worked with the legal department to draft a proposed ordinance attached to the agenda item. Updating the ICC allows for the integration of the latest advancements in building science, materials, and construction techniques, ensuring that safety and efficiency standards remain up to date. These updates enable the ICC to incorporate lessons learned from past experiences, adapt to evolving regulatory requirements, and account for regional and local variations in building practices. The codes are written to be a minimum standard, and they allow for the cities and jurisdictions to amend them to meet the needs of our community. Our staff wrote amendments focusing on addressing specific requirements to tailor these codes to the city's high standards that our citizens and businesses expect from the city of Sugar Land. Some of our existing amendments as well were carried over from the last ordinance. We were mindful of how residences, businesses, and contractors would be impacted while keeping focus on life safety requirements. Now, I'd like to, again, give you some these are just very brief examples of how the ICC themselves, every 3 years, constantly changing, right? When new technologies come out and tweaking to better the construction process. We won't get into too many technical details because, again, there's hundreds of them, but I still want to give you some examples. First such example is in the International Building Code, which covered the installation in commercial businesses. They now recognize the use of shipping containers being used as buildings if they comply with certain standards. This was not that they weren't allowed before. It's just they wanted to set guidelines that in commercial businesses, if they were to use them, to give something of a standard for the installation of them. Another one is in the International Residential Code, which is our residential installations, is the door between a garage and a house must be self-latching and self-closing now. They added the verbiage of self-latching. Again, it was always self-closing, but they went to address, hey, it closes, but is it fully closing, right? So again, just an example of how they're just tweaking the codes every 3 years to try to give, better tools for the inspectors and the contractors to help with these installations. Another significant change was in the International Pool and Spa Code, calling out the use of a temporary construction fence is required now during in-ground swimming pool installations. Again, seems kind of small and insignificant, but really gives, again, the city to where when they start excavating, it's calling out a practice, a technique that the cities and the contractors have as a guideline for safety reasons. And finally, a last example is back in the residential code is that carbon monoxide alarms are now required to be installed when the installation, alteration, or repair of a fuel-fired mechanical system occurs. An example of that is when you replace your furnace in your home. It is now required that you have a carbon monoxide installed at that time. You know, in a new house, that's being installed already, but in some of our older homes, 30, 40, 50 years old, they're not there. And they understand that if you're disconnecting that gas line, you're installing a new system, we need something to help protect the homeowners and the residents. So again, those are some brief examples of the significant changes in the code. And now I'd like to discuss our proposed amendments to these codes. The first of which is we wrote a test procedure for smoke testing grease ducts. This test was always industry standard, and over the last 10, 15 years, this is what contractors did for cities anyways. It was just never clearly written into the code. The code actually specifically called out using a 100-watt light bulb and dragging it through the duct and looking for any emitting light, and that's how you would detect if there was a leak. Well, nobody does that, so we use smoke tests in order to find those pinhole leaks. So we clearly written that for the contractors, again, to set a guideline for them. Next proposed amendment is the use of direct buried electrical cables having to be installed in an approved conduit or raceway. There are safety concerns for having wire underground subject to damage. It is also a cost-effective in situations where the wire needs to be replaced in the future. So a quick example on this is the code allows you to take wire that's rated for direct burial and just throw it in the dirt, no pipe, and then cover it up. We thought it'd be better for our residents and for our commercial businesses that if we require that to be in a conduit 15 years down the road when that wire goes bad, because it will go bad, instead of having to dig up the whole backyard, you're just repulling the line. Very cost-effective way of getting it done. Next proposed amendment is clarification on the type of test gauge used for gas pipe testing, prohibiting spring gauges when you're testing your gas piping systems. Our next proposed amendment is in the IRC, and it's an amendment to require carbon monoxide alarms to be installed when fuel-fired plumbing systems are installed. So as you heard earlier, the code added the installation of carbon monoxide for fuel-fired mechanical, but they failed to address the plumbing system. So on my end, I looked at it as if you're taking out the water heater, which is also installed to the gas line, if it's required for the mechanical, it should be required for the plumbing system as well. Again, these aren't very expensive carbon monoxide alarms, anywhere from $50 to $100, which, in comparison to what you're charging for that water heater is nothing. Next proposed amendment is adding a requirement to have an audible alarm in the water heater pan if no pan drain is being installed. This served as a method to alert someone to prevent extensive damage to the property. And my last proposed amendment is the deletion of an energy code requiring automatic controls on interior and exterior residential light fixtures. To give you a quick example of what this is, in the new energy code, they now require an occupancy sensor in certain portions of your residential home. If you've ever been in an office and you've sat there long enough and not moved, the light shut off, the energy code wanted you to start putting those in your bedrooms. So imagine sitting there reading or watching TV, and if you sit there for 15, 20 minutes, the light shut off, and you're sitting there waving your arms to get it turned back on. Now, we saw that as a way to delete, you're already having LED lights. It's not like these are, a big draw in your electrical systems, and be less of a burden on the homeowners. So again, these were the proposed amendments. If there are not any questions, I'm going to hand it over to James Serrano with the Fire Marshal's Office.
I certainly appreciate everything you guys do keeping us safe. I can't imagine. And I did see the picture you used at the very beginning of this of Hurricane Michael and the one beach house standing there. I want you to know I saw that firsthand when I was in Florida, and it was unbelievable to see total devastation and then one structure standing amid it all. And I'm thinking, how did that happen? And then you happen to have a picture right there, so that was pretty cool.
The only one that met the code.
That's it, most likely.
Yeah.
The reason for my question or comment was you certainly are trying to protect us from buried electricity lines. Does our codes do anything related to fiber optic or other lines that don't carry a life-changing charge, for lack of better words?
No, for right now, anything 50 volts or less is not regulated by the code. So for that reason, we do not inspect those systems.
Because I come across this in the business I'm in. I see gas lines that are exposed to soil and they're struck. I see electricity lines, I see fiber optic lines, and I'm thinking, why does someone not protect these better so your ideas are appreciated? I just feel like we're a couple more steps away from making our neighborhood communicate better even, because cutting those lines is devastating to our home businesses and our schools and others. So thank you for what you do.
Carol?
So what is a grease duck?
So an event hood system, like say in a restaurant,
Okay.
whenever they install it, because they're releasing grease-laden vapors, which can be ignited, they have to be sealed properly, right? So whenever they weld these ducts together, the code requires them to be tested. Now, in the code, again, they specifically call out the use of a 100-watt light bulb that you would drag through with an extension cord or rope, and then the inspector would be on the outside looking for light emitting from any portion of that duct. Now, to date, and all the years I've been doing this, I've never heard of anyone even attempt that, because if you're not in a completely dark room, you're not going to see that. And then again, on welds, you know, if your welds aren't good, that light's not going to bounce around and make it out that leak, but smoke will. It's pretty interesting to see. In fact, when you perform a smoke test and you sit there with a flashlight, it takes a minute. As the smoke builds up, it'll start to seep out these little pinhole leaks. And that was always the industry standard. It's just, it was never called out in the code. So a lot of cities, they write this into their, as one of their amendments to help guide the contractors and to how to perform that process. And that's what it's for.
Yeah, well, thank you. And also thank you for deleting the code requiring automatic controls on residential lights. That would not have gone
I
over
didn't
well.
think there would be anyone in our city that would like that. So I'm always waving at my ceiling in my office. So.
Joshua, my turn. I want to thank you. And I'm doing this publicly. You came out to my house, you didn't know I was a city council member, and you red tagged my generator. You remember that?
Yes, I do.
And then I told you who I was, and and not only did you red tag it, but you were ready to talk to the electrician. You got on the phone with the electrician right then and there, and you explained to it. And the electrician came back to my phone, to my ear, and said, he's being extremely picky. And I said, that's fine. And I hung up on him, and he came back and fixed it. You told me, I'm saving your life, because if something goes wrong, you could have a fire in your house. So thank you for doing what you do for our citizens day in and day out. I'm so excited that you're in this position. I'm so glad you're presenting today. And to your team, you've got a great mentor in Joshua, so look up to him. Thank you very much. We'll move on to fire.
Good evening. All right, Josh, where did you leave me? Sorry about that. Thanks, way to go. Hey, do you ever know, because when Josh brought this up, why that door has to latch in your garage? Okay, because we keep vehicles in our garage, and that room has to be actually a 1-hour rated room in your garage. And to add some fire protection features to these, so when they actually do this, we can actually go in there and add some things to actually protect these things. One of the biggest changes that came in Chapter 22 is combustible dust producing operations, which provides requirements to seek to reduce the likelihood of dust explosions. So this is an effect that actually happens. We do have some of these units in Sugar Land at some of the places that we do cabinetry work. So, and this is one of those examples in this picture. There's actually 3 firefighters that are inside that fire. So when it failed, the dust explosion, it happened, and this is kind of effect you do have. So one of the things we're going to do is, when they wrote this code, they give us more enforcement to actually address these issues. So big issue that actually happened. So this is the big one. So clean energy. So in Chapter 12, so in the 18 code, they actually wrote several pages to address some of these energy systems, and then in 21, they added a lot more. And we're going to see this keep moving. So what this is actually addressing is some of the code issues that were never addressed, and now they're giving us some codes that we can enforce. So energy storage systems is big. If you see, like in this picture here, this is actually on top of an Amazon warehouse that caught fire because of one of the PV systems that they actually installed, and it wasn't the only one they had on an Amazon building that caught fire, so they eventually turned them all off. So so now what we're going to see In the 21 code is the chart, the table that's actually shown in your PowerPoint. That gives us the maximum allowable quantities that we can actually store battery systems. That was never addressed. And lithium ions, that big one that we're seeing. Especially in New York, they had 17 fatalities of the 100 that were caused by the lithium ion battery. So electric scooters, cell phones, computers, everything we're pretty much carrying is lithium ion. The issue is the other battery technology is science is way ahead of us, and we're trying to catch up with it. So we don't know what those technologies are. We have seen them here in Sugar Land. That's not even addressed in code because it's so new, and that technology's out there. We just don't know how to address it yet. So we're hoping in the 24 code will actually address some of that, but as science moves, the fire service is trying to keep up. So this is a cool one, AI. So we're starting to see this in Sugar Land now. So they're using AI for high-powered combustible storage, and product is moving by robots. So we're starting to see that. I actually visited a Wonton Foods the other day, and he's actually bought his first piece of equipment. That's AI, and he now wants to go to these robots that pushes the product across the floors and stores for it. It's pretty neat stuff. The deal is the code never addressed what these AI, if you have a building fire and you have an AI picking up something, moving it, and then dragging fire across the building, stacking it somewhere else, there are measures to prevent that from happening. So Amazon's a big one on this. It's pretty cool. When they get into a fire alarm, they actually muster, and they bring themselves to a muster point and make sure they all get together and stay at one point while people evacuate the building. So it's pretty neat stuff. Chapter 33, fire safety during construction and demolition. So if you see in that picture that guy hanging out there on the patio, okay, this actually happened in Houston. So now the code's actually addressing some of the issues that we found during construction is what are they going to do to precautions against fire. So as building goes up, they have to start putting things into effect that actually allows fire departments to go in and actually put these fires out. One of them is the water supply for fire protection. So they have to give us some means to get water up to the upper floors. So that's standpipes, what we hook up to get water to the upper floors. So pretty neat stuff coming out. So this is what we're going to try to do. So the building square footage required for fire sprinklers is 7,500 square feet on most buildings. Some of the other buildings fall, like the restaurants, fall into the 5,000 because of the square footage or occupant loads that are at 100. We're going to try to move this square footage down to 5,000 square feet. So this is kind of what we're seeing in most cities, that we're dropping the square footage. Similar cities around here have gone to this. Bourbon County went down to 6. I checked other cities throughout that I have contacts with and what they were doing. Frisco went to 5, Plano went to 6. So it's one of those things we kind of look at and see how protected do we want to protect buildings? Do we bring that down to 5,000 square feet? So one of the big changes that came from the code also was furniture stores. It was at 5,000. They dropped it down to 2,500. That's in code, black and white. Where if you store mattresses, furniture, anything like that, over 2,500 square feet, you have to sprinkle your building. So we did lose a building, Mattress Firms, several years ago. Unprotected, total loss. So this is something we have to think about. I want you to kind of soak this in. Like I said, just see what do y'all feel on this as we come back later on this one. The building square footage required for fire protection sprinkler reduced from 15,000 square feet to 7,500 square feet for remodels and addition. This one's always been in the amendment for several years, but it's always come back to bite us. So as we remodel buildings, we can't get them sprinkled because of 15,000 square feet is pretty excessive. So we have a shell, like a suites, shell buildings, they do remodels throughout. but they're under that 15,000 square feet. The amendment didn't allow us to sprinkle it. So this is what we're trying to aim for, going down to 7,500 square feet. Most cities have gone to equal of, so if some cities went to 5,000, the remodel was 5,000. We kept it up a little high, 7,500 square feet. We're still toying that around. Do we bring it down to 5,000? That's kind of one of those things we have to discuss. So, but a lot of remodels are happening. A lot of older buildings are not getting protected. So this is something we have to draw up and look at as a city. So last one, the operational permits requirements for places of custodial care. So this is the one that's kind of been on my mind for a couple of years. So we got a lot of homes that require custodial care for a lot of people. So the deal is with this is there's no permit process for us to actually track them. So we do have a lot of homes that meet this requirement because they notify us, which requires them to sprinkle the house and alarms. So, so this is going to kind of open it up for us to actually start tracking these homes and try to figure out who is doing the right thing and who's not doing the right thing. So we have systems in place with the PD and our EMS crews to notify us when they find these homes, so we can send our guys out there to go check them. So a lot of cities have done this. So I think it's time. So, and I am ready for questions.
Suzanne?
Thank you, James. This is some good stuff. You know I like this. I had something that was interesting to me when you started off and you said 3D machines were going to have different codes to protect them. Do you know where they are in the city?
There is one in there, yes, and I can't remember the name of it, but I actually found out they're starting to use that process. So I think it's something we're going to start seeing more often because it's happening.
So understanding how you actually enforce these codes or ask them to get permits or make changes, do they contact you, or do we just happen to find them, or how do we go about identifying?
Think a lot of people are not going to know this is code now. So our guys are actually inspecting warehouses right now. We're going to find a lot of things. So this may be one of them.
Interesting. Okay, follow up. You were talking about changing the code from 5,000 to 5,000. There is going to be an interim in there, a group that are going to have to either retrofit or change. Are we talking about grandfathering any of these buildings? Are we talking about making them add? Do they have a time frame? What are the criteria for making that change on existing buildings?
Yeah, and that's one of the things we have to look at, because we have, the last one we did was a medical facility of over 52,000 square feet that wasn't sprinkled. Wow. So, but it did fall under the 15,000 square feet or above. So we gave them 5 years to complete this. So they came in and sprinkled both buildings, and what we call is kind of shelled it out. So as remodels happen, those remodels actually start sprinkling. The pipe's already laid into the shell. Now when they come in and do a remodel, they just tap into that pipe system and sprinkle the rest of the portion of the building. So we've done these like this, 5-year increments or 3. So it's a kind of a base by base, case by case scenario. So we sprinkled a 3-story building like that with several hundred people in it. It wasn't sprinkled before, but it fell into that 15,000 square foot amendment.
Okay.
So we got that sprinkled. So it's going to be case by case.
Thank you. That's good to know, because a lot of people couldn't just do it automatically overnight. So that time frame is helpful.
Oh no, it's expensive.
Thank
Very
you.
expensive.
William?
Great work. You got a lot going on right now.
Yeah, that's.
So I have 3 or 4 questions. I think they're going to be easy for you. Starting at your most recent conversation with Suzanne. As you decrease the size down to 5,000, does that touch on residential at all, or is that just commercial?
1 to 2 family dwelling we cannot touch, state law. Okay, so that's black and white. It's the townhomes where we have the 3 dwellings that are put together, and a lot of those are required by code anyway. So there's no square footage requirement on that. It's just black and white in code.
No, that's perfect. So how about childcare? Is childcare fall in this as well? Are they already sprinkled? Are they not?
It depends on the square footage and the type of, so if a childcare falls under that square footage, there are some requirements they have to do before it's still like, they have to have a door that goes directly to the outside out of every classroom.
Okay.
Okay, so they can use that. So, but that's one of the ones that's been changing because childcare's, there are kids in there.
Sure.
So we have to be careful with that because even age groups, they identify that about sprinkling childcare facilities.
And off of that, you brought up the Amazon building with the solar panels and the fires. Are we seeing that on residential?
I have not seen it here, but I've seen it elsewhere. So not here in the city. I have seen lithium-ion batteries here in the city do that kind of.
And then the last question, I think your first or second slide, you included portable generators. I wondered what changes would happen or what you guys are focused on with portable.
We've been really good with that because theoretically a lot of the generators here run off diesel or natural gas.
Okay.
So we set distances between those and the buildings, and we require the tanks on those generators to be a 2-hour rated fire tank.
Okay.
So we actually do some protection on that. So,
Okay.
Yeah, we've
Thank
been
you.
pretty good with that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, Nicole, I think you're up. Thank you.
Last time for the night, I promise. So up until now, we've talked a lot about new processes, new buildings, and want to go over what code enforcement does, which really is focusing on those existing properties and making sure that as they age, they don't become eyesores and nuisances within the community. And we feel strongly about effective enforcement being key to accomplishing that. And we have a variety of tools in our toolbox, which include the International Property Maintenance Code, the Swimming Pool and Spa Code, the Code of Ordinances, and the Development Code. And while I don't have a whole lot of snazzy, significant changes, I do have some amendments that I am proposing to make sure that all of those tools in our toolbox work together to accomplish that goal. So the first of which is the expedited enforcement of chronic and repeat violations. Currently, in our process, we issue a first notice once we find a violation. We wait. Then we issue a final notice of violation, and then we wait before we get to the phase in which we're actually issuing citations to those property owners. There are individuals in the community who have learned how to play that game, and so we end up being in situations where someone waits until right before we issue them a citation. Then, for example, they'll mow. And then in 3 weeks, we're right back at the same situation as before. And then we have to go through that entire process all over again. So we've worked extensively with our legal department and our city prosecutors to make that as efficient as possible, and really focusing on those chronic repeat offenders who have become problematic in that community. Next, we want to go over our landscaping regulations. PD has been working really hard to put out LPR cameras, and what we're seeing is that sometimes they're not within what is our standard visibility triangle at an intersection. And so we are proposing to amend the regulations to allow for code enforcement to require that tree trimming and bushes be trimmed back to ensure that all of those public safety devices are unobstructed and are really functional for what we're putting them out for. Another item as far as landscaping that we want to discuss is curb and sidewalk edging. Although this photo doesn't look great and it's not something that we want to see in our community, it does technically comply with our current regulation, right? Because it's below 9 inches. So we want to include the requirement to go ahead and edge those walkways. And then we also want to look at our tree trimming regulation. It focuses on maintaining that canopy over your public streets. But our fire trucks, our trash trucks, they don't just drive on your public streets. They also drive in those gated communities on the public drives. They have to drive up to, if you're thinking of a commercial strip, and all of the landscape reserves that we have in commercial properties, and making sure that those fire lanes are clear for the fire trucks to get up to the building without actually damaging our equipment. So that's another amendment that we are proposing. We also want to take a look at the miscellaneous penalty section that we have in our ICC codes and the Code of Ordinances. Over the years, various sections of the Code of Ordinances have been amended. Some will reference penalties, some don't. There's a penalty section in our IPMC, and making sure that all of that is consistent across the board and all reference back to the same section in our Code of Ordinances, just for simplicity's sake. We also want to take a look at our noise regulations, specifically pertaining to construction and landscaping. Right now, our noise ordinance does speak about a reasonable person being bothered during a reasonable hour. As you can imagine, it is very difficult to prosecute what is reasonable. So we want to formally codify that guidance that we normally provide to our contractors here in the city, and set by code the requirement that they limit construction noise to 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then also try and build in some flexibility for our building official to grant some exemptions, really case-by-case basis, and depending on the specifics of the scenario. It's really hot in Texas in the summer, so pouring concrete, as you can imagine, even at 7 a.m. when it's already 90 degrees is kind of problematic. So allowing that flexibility, but really keying into reviewing each particular request individually. And then lastly, looking at the hours for landscaping noise. We do get complaints. My neighbor started mowing at 6 o'clock in the morning. What is he doing up? Right now, again, going back to a reasonable person during a reasonable hour is hard for us to say. I'm an early bird. Not everyone wants to be up that early. So officially codifying the 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., but then also seeking guidance from council, because we do run into issues. A lot of our complaints actually stem from our golf courses who want to mow really early in the morning before folks get out on the green. So seeking guidance from council in that regard as well. Before I move on, are there any questions or feedback that I can get regarding any of the items?
Or William?
Sorry about all the questions tonight.
It's okay.
Okay, so after our recent festival, which I loved, are we talking anything about ordinances for noise on Sunday nights? I didn't know if you were going to include that. Thank you.
So the regulations pertaining to those kinds of special events fall completely outside of the noise ordinance itself. Those events are reviewed and approved through our special event permitting process. So there are sound requirements, other types of requirements, but that's all encompassed in that separate review process, which is not part of our noise ordinance itself.
Jennifer?
So how did we come up with starting at 7 a.m. for landscaping?
So just for consistency's sake, because in all honesty, I thought somebody's going to ask me why my neighbor can start, weed eating at 6:30 when I can't start construction at 7. So not for any particular reason, just for consistency's sake across the board.
Because, in the summertime, people want to start as early as they can, especially when we're having 100-degree plus weather outside. And if somebody wants to start at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning to start with their projects outside, I don't know if 7 o'clock is going to be early enough. Really? Thinking about why all the landscaping companies that are out there and people that are wanting to get their, football practice starts at 5:30 in the morning for kids. So that's just my feedback on that.
Carol?
Talking about golf courses, what time do people start playing golf at golf courses? Do you know? Have any idea?
I'm not a golfer, so
Yeah.
I'm
Is
not
anybody a
sure.
golfer? So what? Okay.
William is.
for the fanatics out there, as soon as you can see some degree of light, you'll start. That's how bad we are.
Early.
Okay, I was just wondering how
Early.
much the 7 a.m. start time on landscaping, on mowing would affect the, the golf courses and stuff. So that was where I was coming from on that. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
on-
so I think that speaks to how early the golf courses are out there mowing, because there are individuals who want to be the first ones on the green. So it's not uncommon for us to get complaints about a large, and they use large tractors because it's a very large space. So it's not uncommon for us to get complaints about mowing starting at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Wow, okay. And circling back to the special events, are we going to have a separate, I guess, workshop sometime about the special event hours, maybe?
I am not aware of any future discussion regarding that. I'm not part of, apologies, I'm not part of those conversations.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Go ahead, Stuart.
So you were asking about guidance on golf courses?
Yes, please.
Well, if you buy a house on a golf course, you can't expect them not to mow at an appropriate time. Thank you very much.
Just one final comment, going along with what Jennifer said about the early start. Well, with our summers being so hot and having daylight savings times, we still have light till 8 o'clock. So I can see people mowing up until 7:45, 8 o'clock as well. So I think we've spoken a lot about the timings. Maybe staff circles back and comes back to us with something else. Is that fair? Yep.
Okay. And to wrap this all up, today is our workshop, so thank you for providing all of that feedback. We will go back and incorporate that into an ordinance that we plan on bringing forward to council for first reading on the 5th, with second reading occurring on the 19th, after which we'll do a really major public education push prior to the effective date of January 1st.
Very good.
And we have a lot of staff that worked on this, including building, code, fire, as well as our legal department. It's thousands and thousands of pages of codes that we've been sorting over for the last several months. So we are thankful for the opportunity to present that. And if there are any additional questions, we'd be happy to answer those.
Carol?
I just wanted to say thank you to Josh, James, and Nicole for all your work on this, and it's been, and all the other staff who have participated in this, and it's been very informative, so great job.
Thank you. Thank you.
She stole my thunder. That's what I was going to say. All right.
Thank you.
Moving on. Item number 7, City Council City Manager Reports. Item 7A, City Council Member Reports. Suzanne, start with you. You were looking the other way.
Looking away on purpose.
I know.
Okay, so I think we have a lot of the same things we're trying to figure out so we don't overstep. I'm going to do the Field of Honor for the Exchange Club. That was the 10th, and you can hit on this too, William, because I know it's special to you. On the 10th, 11th, and 12th this month, the Exchange Club of Sugar Land took it upon themselves to work very hard for over a year to get 1,000 flags put in the field over by U of H. And it was a very beautiful, meaningful, and successful event. And I want to congratulate the Exchange Club of Sugar Land. I want to thank Jane Neal for working with us to give us the space to do it over at the U of H. And I want to thank all of our council members and our mayor for coming out. Almost, I know William came every night. A lot of you came every night to support this whole function and event. And the fire chief was also there a lot. You spoke. You actually spoke one night. Thank you. So shout out to Exchange Club of Sugar Land.
Carol?
Thank you. Yes, I would say great job by the Exchange Club. It was really phenomenal. Anyway, Nashad and I held the District 2 and 4 Town Hall at Smart Financial Center, so I just wanted to thank staff for your support on that. And many of us attended the Houston Museum of Natural Science Sugar Land Jingle Tree Festa Finale. And that's always a great event, raising money for the museum that really kicks off the holiday season. And I attended a Not All Heroes Wear Capes Thanksgiving luncheon hosted by I Am for Heroes, and it honored the veterans and active duty military and our first responders, and that was at Elite Restaurant, and that was a very meaningful event. Thank you.
Stuart?
Thank you. Suzanne and I held our town hall for Districts 1 and 3, and we had an excellent turnout. And staff were there in force, and we're very appreciative of staff being there. I raised money for and also participated in the Alzheimer's Walk, which went through Imperial area, and that was great. And the mayor and I attended the BAPS Diwali celebration.
Thank you, Stuart. Jennifer?
I attended one of the back-to-back performances of Matt Rife at Smart Financial, and I wanted to thank staff for all of their hard work of coordinating all the traffic and the parking. It's wonderful that we had 2 sold-out shows back-to-back.
William?
Thank you. I want to take a minute, yes, back to the Exchange Club of Sugar Land, unbelievable showing for our city. That was moving, that was everything. In fact, I think even though the mayor spoke, our fire chief probably did a better job than the mayor. Since he's not here tonight, I can say that. So great work, chief. I do want to also bring up the Citizens Police Academy that graduated on the 9th. I want to thank them, our citizens, for being involved, but I also want to thank our staff for being so amazing. Our police department is absolutely amazing, the way they treat our citizens and walk them through what they do on a daily basis. And those of you that have not been a part of that, please consider joining the Citizens Police Academy, for example. That was fabulous. A lot has happened. I apologize for running on, but the Sugar Land Heritage Foundation had their holiday market and fall social on the 9th. I want to thank them for always bringing the history of Sugar Land to the front so that we never forget what an amazing city that we have. And then I have to brag for a minute, brag on our city as usual. I was invited to the city of Houston because the city of Houston is trying to do what the city of Sugar Land has done so well, and that is our pump track and our outdoor activities. And I've got to tell you how humbling it is to walk into these massive city hall buildings knowing that I'm a city of 120,000 people getting it right, and we get to speak with a city of over 4 million saying, how did you do that? So I just wanted to brag for a minute that Sugar Land's getting a lot of things right, so you guys keep it up.
Thanks, William. And I've got 2 real quick. I want to thank Officer Lawrence Stockholm for presenting to real estate agents last week where they talked about safety. A lot of times real estate agents, they're by themselves. They're going in with people that they don't know a lot of times, and empty homes, and also how to protect their sellers to, medications being stolen and other things. It was just a great presentation. I learned a lot. And then I'm build on what William said about the Heritage Foundation. I want to thank James Turner. He spoke about transportation today, and then we had a presentation about what transportation looked like in the early Sugar Land time period. And then we got Helfman Ford talk about how it's going to go into the future. It was a great evening, and I know, Stuart, you were there along with myself, and Carol, you were there as well. That's it for City Council reports. 7B, City Manager report.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. City offices are closed this Thursday and Friday for Thanksgiving. I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. I want to thank our staff. We have probably close to 100 employees that will be spending their time keeping us safe so that we can enjoy that. We'll also have a lot of other employees that are on call that are not able to go off with their families or partake in some nice Thanksgiving punch because they need to be ready to respond. Want to thank all of them as well. Solid waste will be rolling. If you had it Thursday, I'll go to Friday. Friday, I'll go to Saturday. And then next Friday, we will be throwing a little party right out here, lighting up a big old tree. And that'll be 5 to 8. We're looking forward to that. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Item number 8, closed executive session. Item 8A, closed executive session as authorized by Chapter 551 Texas Government Code in accordance with Section 551.7074 Public Officers for the purpose of deliberations regarding appointments to and the duties of the tax increment reinvestment zone. Number 1, Tia Moore, Deputy Secretary. We will now recess into closed executive session in the dining room at 6:49 p.m. Is that right?